Hello, everybody. Welcome to Albion Obsessed, episode 9. We are here with Curtis and we are here with Toby, the return of Toby. I know we had the return of Toby a few weeks back, but every time he comes back, we're going to say the return of Toby. And we are here with a familiar voice, Tom, Exiled Seagull, as you can see on the screen there, nicely typed in. How are we, boys? Curtis, first of all, we didn't see you on the last podcast. How you doing, mate?
I'm all right. Yeah, I was going to say I haven't caught up with you guys since Villa, right? It was Villa.
I think so.
Yeah, and that was fun to watch. But I'm doing all right otherwise. Yeah.
Good stuff. Tom, your third appearance, I want to say. Second appearance. Well, yeah, it's great to have you on, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, man, I'm pretty good. I just got in from work. I'm just looking forward to having a little sit down, having a nice little chat. You know.
Yeah. There is plenty to talk about.
A nice calm conversation amongst friends.
Toby, you're laughing, you're smiling. We all know what happened in the group chat. The viewers don't know what's happened in the group chat.
Yeah,
You've got a lot to say, Toby. First of all, how are you, mate?
Yeah, no, I'm doing well, mate. Yeah, thank you. I do have a lot to say. I'm sure some people may have seen an exchange I had on Twitter with someone. I felt I articulated my points very well on there, but I'll expand on them in the podcast, and hopefully that'll entertain the viewers.
Maybe a good thing that I haven't seen it, because otherwise I would know exactly what points you're going to bring up.
To be honest with you, I haven't seen it either. So
I am rather not nervous, but I'm anticipating what you're going to say, and it's let's see what happens. Obviously, I didn't go to the game. I was on a family holiday, very relaxing, except for the 90 minutes that I watched Brighton. I was watching it in a restaurant. Couldn't relax at all. Thought, we're playing really, really good football here. We are going to absolutely run away with this one. I think 20 shots, only 4 on target. Trossard hitting the post, Malpay missing a sitter. It all happened, Toby, and I wasn't there to see it. First of all, did you manage to get to the game?
Unfortunately, I didn't. Shout out to my granddad recovering from some surgery. I normally go with him, but obviously, because he wasn't going, we put our tickets on the exchange. Someone else got to go to the game, and we supported the boys from home. We'll be back at the next one, though.
Perfect, yeah. And where did you watch it, Toby? At home on TV, or?
Yeah, just at home on the big telly. I'm not sure if that makes it better or worse, actually, because I got very frustrated at home.
Yeah, I really don't know what's worse, watching it there or watching it on TV, as you say. Tom, where did you watch the game? Who did you watch it with?
So I was on my Todd. I was on my own. The poor wife had to put up with me kind of pacing around, going, "For goodness sake, what's going on?" Now, as my Twitter handle suggests, as I'm a seagull in exile, I didn't get down to watch it, unfortunately. But as you said, I'm quite glad that I wasn't there, considering everything that's happened, shall we say. But we'll get onto that in a bit.
It's been rather toxic. Curtis, you live with a QPR fan.
No, Reading fan.
Reading. Sorry, where did I get QPR from? Reading fan. Which game did you manage to watch, or did they kick off at different times?
We watched both, actually.
Oh.
Because one was on earlier, and then we watched ours later. Me and my brother watched the Brighton game, and now and again I would sat there in complete silence, and I'll just go, "Neil."
It turned into Neil's dad from In Between Us.
Oh, Neil, yeah.
Oh,
Neil. But yeah, it was it was fun experience to watch that.
Was it? Was it though, Curtis?
No,
definitely not. As we say, we've been speaking about it a lot on the group chat. Let's put our points out there. First of all, I think it's on everybody's lips. Everyone knows the score by now. I know we're recording this on the Tuesday after the game. As I said, we've had different commitments, but so everyone knows the score. Everyone knows what happened. But let's sort of address the monkey in the room. Monkey in the room? That's not a phrase, Joe. Elephant in the room.
Elephant in the room.
Elephant in the room. That's the phrase. The booing. Let's get this straight off the bat. Toby, in the group chat, you were saying it was just. How?
Yeah, I
how?
mean, I need to be careful with how I phrase it here. So, I think a lot of people, from the reaction that I saw on Twitter, were sort of assuming that those boos were a direct insult to Graham Potter and the job that he is doing. And I need to say now that if I was there and I was booing, which I felt like I probably could if I was there, it wouldn't be towards Graham Potter. We created so many chances, maybe partially to blame Graham Potter, the fact that we were told all transfer window for the past 2 transfer windows, or 3 maybe, no, we don't need a striker. Everyone's going to come good. Everyone's going to come good. Now, I need to say this because, like, I firmly believe it. I think that was pretty much 3 open goals that Morpay missed. That any other Premier League striker, I'm talking any other Premier League striker, anyone, you name one, they'll bag a hat trick on that game. How many chances do we have to give Neil Morpay before he finally bucks up his ideas? I saw a stat there the other day. I think Graham Potter might have mentioned it in an interview. He scored one every 4 games for us, 20 goals in 80 games or something like that.
Mm.
And I mean, realistically, is that a good return? I know he offers so much more to the team. He gets in the right positions. But if you're going to have a striker that gets in the right positions, how many times do they have to get there and not put it away before we give up on them? I'm saying that the boos were not directly at the performance. The boos were at the comments that they've made all summer, saying we don't need anyone. And now look where we are. We're 2 points worse off from that game. And I can think of other games where we would have done better with strikers as well.
You say now, look where we are. We're 9th in the Premier League, Toby. So, you know, I know we had a really good start to the season, and maybe some other teams around us maybe aren't doing amazingly well. So that means we are bumped up in that position. But we've got to where we are, 9th in the Premier League at this stage of the season, with what we have. I'm playing devil's advocate here because I do agree with some of the points you've made. But if we do continue forward with this, obviously Neil Morpay had a great start to the season, was taken out the side, in my opinion, unfairly. Is it a confidence thing with Neil?
I think so. But you can't have players that have fragile confidences, and we've seen. I'm not sure if that's a word, to be honest, but we've seen in the past that he's got a pretty fragile ego, Neil Morpay. He gets offended quite easily and can back down from a game quite easily. I mean, I understand that we're 9th in the table, but I'm just having a look now. We've scored 12 goals in 13 games. That's less than a goal a game, and we're 9th. We're there by luck, really, at the moment. I mean, credit to our defence, because our defence are so solid, and we've always had a good defence to build around. That's always been our way. Do you know what I mean? And I'm really happy about that. But now that we've got Graham Potter and we've got this free-flowing attacking side, and we're getting so many good chances every game, I've reached the end of my tether with missing chances. I'm not sure. Like, it maybe I'm entitled. I don't remember when we were going out of existence.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous. That is.
But do you know what? I like, if we don't start improving soon, if we don't start thinking about January now, we'll be down the bottom of the table again before we know it, and then we'll start be thinking like, oh, maybe we should have invested. Maybe we'd kick on from where we are now.
Yeah, Curtis. Obviously, Toby made great points about who the boos were aimed at. Would you agree at where they were aimed at, or do you feel it was a certain few that were aiming it towards the fact that the players on the pitch weren't scoring, and that they've come for a day out? I know a lot of people have referenced day trippers at the AMEX.
Sure.
Do you think it's them that it's a bit like a pantomime, really? Oh, we didn't get to see the top performance that we could have, so we're going to boo. What do you think?
I feel like if you're going to a football game and expecting 5-0 games every time, then you probably shouldn't be going to games, because that's not the reality of it. You're not going to win every game, and you need to expect that to be the case. But I feel like a lot of the boos are really just out of pure frustration. I'm not I don't necessarily believe it was aimed at Graham or any particular player. Yes, I know there's genuine frustrations with Neil. I mean, I have those two. Yes, he should be putting goals like that away. But also, the argument I have is I'm not sure what that does for his confidence. You know, those sorts of that sort of negative stuff. But also, like Toby said, it's probably not a good thing to have, you know, someone with such I guess like a fragile attitude in that sort of position. Because strikers usually exude a sort of confidence, you know, that's what they have all the time, you know. This is my opinion of it. I think the boos just came from just pure frustration of how many chances we had, and, you know, we hit the post and, you know, these open goals and things, but we couldn't convert it. So it's just frustration.
Yeah, and for me, after the game, obviously, the media have, I think, blown this completely out of proportion.
As usual.
I've seen even more tweets about it today. I even saw the leader of AFTV tweet about us, saying that we're a toxic fan base, when you look at what they do towards their club when they're in turmoil.
Constantly.
Toby, obviously, you're shaking your head. I believe we've spoken off camera about AFTV before. And it was heartbreaking for me after the game to see the media asking Graham Potter what he thinks of the fans' reaction and saying it as if it was the whole ground booing. Because I, for one, absolutely adore what Graham Potter is doing at the club. I had my views on it last season when we were going through that really tough point, but he's proved me wrong. He's come through the really rough patch, and I absolutely 100% am behind him. Tom, was it difficult for you to watch that interview and see Graham Potter react the way he did towards the fans?
I think what I found quite hard was I think it was the interview that they did a couple of days ago, where Graham said something like, "Boo me." And I think I just felt very sorry for him, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I did feel sorry for him, but I think Graham's sensible enough to know that it was a minority of fans, and I think he's got thicker skin. You know, you see these people on Twitter or on social media saying, "Oh, you'll walk." No, you won't walk. Not for being booed. It's part and parcel of, you know, football. But just coming back to the boos, got some stats for you, because I did a lot of playing devil's advocate on Twitter on Saturday night and Sunday morning.
Of course.
So, got some stats for you, boys. We haven't won a game since September. We haven't scored in open play since Liverpool. So that's roughly 270 minutes of football. In the last 5 games, we've picked up 4 points. And in that 5 games, we've played Norwich, Villa, Newcastle and Leeds. 3 of those 4 teams are in the bottom 4. And we've come away with 4 points. I can see where the frustration is, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, not to sound entitled, because I know as Brighton fans, we get a lot of, we should be beating teams like Brighton. But when you look at those fixtures, you know, Norwich, Villa, Newcastle, Leeds, if you said beforehand that we were going to come away with 4 points, you'd be quite disappointed with that. And I think there are games that are winnable for us. You know, the point against Liverpool was great, but I don't think it, you know, you hope for something out of a game against Liverpool. You don't necessarily expect it. But when we played Norwich, Newcastle, Leeds and Villa, I expect us to put in good performances and to go for a win. So when you take that context of our form, I think it's very easy to see why people are frustrated. And just going back to your point, Joe, about our league position, I don't think that it's a true reflection of how we're playing at the moment or the results that we're getting. Because I think I saw a form table and we're near the bottom, you know, because our last couple of games, you know, our last 5 games, 4 points out of 15. That's not great. It's not great form. Our goal scoring is poor after a really good start to the season. It's not the end of the world. I'm not like panic stations, but I am quietly concerned that, as Toby says, if we don't address this by bringing in that striker that we all know that we need in January, I just don't know where the goals are going to come from. Because I said on the last podcast, I think we do look better with Mopé in the side. And I think you could see that because as soon as he went off the pitch, the performance just went flat. The cardio absolutely nothing to that game. And I'd like to think that that's Potter saying to the powers that be, this is my strength in depth. This is what I've got.
Yeah.
There's a lot to get frustrated about, and I think I've said to you lads already. I think the reaction on Twitter and social media has actually probably made me angrier than the fans booing, because I can understand that frustration.
Yeah.
But some of the reaction on Twitter, I know I've talked a bit already, but I just want to talk about this point because it really annoyed me. Some fans saying that if you weren't at the Goldstone, if you didn't go to Gillingham, if you weren't at the Withdean, you shouldn't complain. That annoys the hell out of me. Because just because you weren't born in the right decade or the right year, you don't have a right.
Just for the audio listeners, Toby is, I don't know what he's thrown, but he's thrown something. Shaking his head whilst Tom's speaking. Absolutely. Sorry,
shaking
Tom.
his fist at the sky.
Continue your point. I just wanted to make that clear for the audio listeners.
Now, I have been talking for a while, but it just really annoys me. I'm going to preface this. My first game, 1999, at the Withdean. I was at the Withdean. I froze my off at the Withdean. I got rained on, I got frozen, and I watched us lose to really rubbish teams. But when you see people say, oh, X amount of years ago, we were playing Warsaw and we were losing 4-0, as if that's got any bearing on.
Yeah, but we're not now.
We're not there anymore. Since Tony Bloom has come in, he has transformed this club. We are not the same club that we were in the 90s.
No.
So our expectations have changed as fans and as a club. And that's okay. So having people turn around and say to young fans especially, oh, you weren't at the Withdean, you weren't at Gillingham, you weren't at the Goldstone, you don't get to have a say. That really annoys me, because all it does is create this generational divide between younger fans and older fans, and it just really irked me to see people say.
I feel like every single person, I know, Toby, you're itching to say something. I'll come to you in just a second. Every single person in that stadium, every single person that supports Brighton and watches us and even just follows Brighton has their own story behind why they can't do certain things. I feel like I should be open and vulnerable about this. Not necessarily vulnerable because it's not, because it's just true life. So when I was 5, my mum and dad split. We moved from Brighton to Hastings, and my mum was essentially a single parent raising 2 kids, right? So there was no way for me to get from Hastings to Brighton in those years between me growing up and when I could eventually get a season ticket when I was 14, I believe, maybe 13. I couldn't physically get to a game because my mum could not afford it. Does that mean that my opinion is any less than somebody who could go to that game? For example, my dad, before he moved to America, he's back now. I'm sure he won't mind me saying that he moved there for a good few years. He's back now, and now he's a season ticket holder again. But he went to loads of games before that. My mum, when she was my age, she went to the Goldstone ground all the time and then stopped because she was raising a family.
Yeah.
Every single person has their own story as to why they haven't gone to there. It's not because we didn't start supporting the Albion at this specific time.
Or you're a plastic fan or something ridiculous like that.
I'm sure, Curtis, you won't mind me saying you've not been to a game. But for me,
and a good chunk of that is the same, like lack of money mainly.
Exactly.
And the fact that I have just terrible anxiety. And
absolutely.
And that doesn't mean that I'm less of a fan because I don't go to the ground. I watch the games every week. I'm fully invested in the club. What more can I give?
Yeah, 100%. And the best you give is your support, and that's as good as anyone else. Somebody that travels away all the time, that's as good as anyone else. They've got the money to do that. Whatever, fine.
Yeah.
Let them do that. That's their life. Everyone has a different life. Toby, we'll come to you, mate. I'm sure you've got quite a lot to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just first of all second all you boys have said. Very similar situation to you, Joe. Parents split up, not a lot of money. And then secondly to that, I didn't like football until 2007. And at that time I was 10. So I'm already behind the curve. and I remember playing FIFA 07 on my PSP and playing with a Brighton team in League One with Fran Sandaza up top and Glenn Murray. So this is you know, this is when, you know, I first knew football was this thing. I didn't really understand the concept of fans dedicated going to the game every week. I thought at the time, you know, it's like a concert. You go every now and then.
Yeah.
No, it's you go every week and you support the boys and you cheer and you sing. Does that make me less of a fan because I started liking football later than everyone else? No, it doesn't. I'm sorry, it doesn't. I've devoted practically my life since 2007 to football. I watch as many games as I can, not even just my own team, as many teams as I can in different leagues and countries across the world. I love football, and I feel I have a good understanding of football. If someone questions me because I didn't go to the fucking Goldstone, I'm sorry. It just really winds me up. And then my second point to all of this is, just because we were in the shit in the past, does that mean that we need to settle for mediocre? No, everyone wants this club to go to the very top. If you're a fan and you don't want the club to go to the very top, you're the one that's got the problem. So you should be frustrated. You should be frustrated at the lack of goals. You should be frustrated that other clubs have bigger budgets to buy the players that we can't buy. And that's the sad truth. And I understand that our budget's gonna come into play when we're looking at strikers. But you have to throw the dice at some point, because we're struggling. We are, and our form table, as Tom said, is shocking. We are lucky to be where we are in the table. How we've managed to maintain that position over the course of the last 2 months or so, I don't know. Because every week I'm looking at it, I'm like, how have we not gone down? How have we not gone down? How have we not gone down? But you've got to bear in mind, there's still only 9 points between us and the relegation zone.
Yeah.
And that's relatively, it's quite easy for a team like Leeds to pick up a good bit of form, and then suddenly we're right back down there. I think before we get, you know, because I know you can tell, you know, I just know someone's going to be watching this and they're going to start moaning. I think the history of this club is very unique. I think it's incredibly important. Where we've come from, what happened in the 90s, what happened with the 2 years at Gillingham, the Withdean, they are really a huge part of the heart and soul of this club. But as Toby says, things have changed, things have moved on. We can remember those days and think, oh yeah, they were crap, weren't they? But we're a Premier League team now. We've been in the Premier League for 5 seasons. And we want to move up. We want to keep going. We want to keep consistent. We want to push on. You know, Tony Bloom says he wants a top 10 club. Well, we're not going to just settling for a point, you know, against strugglers in the league. It's not going to cut it. There's going to get to a point where our expectations have to match where we are, not where we've come from.
Oh, by the way, I saw people saying Bloom out on Twitter. Just get in the bin, mate. Get in the bin.
No,
just saying.
Wrong.
So,
one thing I want to add is: do you think that pre-Sir Alex Ferguson era Man United, do you think that as soon as Sir Alex Ferguson started coming in, they started getting closer and closer towards the top of the table, that they all just went, no, I prefer where we were. I don't want to be frustrated with my team.
Yeah.
Listen, I am so proud of our history, and I think if we somehow got into the Champions League at some point or something, we would be the feel-good story. You look at our story, we are the ones to watch. We have the best owner in football, the best 100%. Owner in world football. I promise you that. No one, like, he loves the club. There's no one better. But you cannot settle for mediocrity in this business. You cannot.
Yeah.
You can't expect to get any better if you don't improve.
Exactly. I just want to touch on, or just add to your point, Toby, that you said how proud of our history you are. And when people say things like that to me on Twitter, like, oh, remember when we were this bad? Remember when we were down here? You know, how we are at the moment is nowhere near as bad as that. For me, that's not something that I, you know, as you guys, that's not something that I sit there and go, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, we're all right. Let's just settle for this. those days make me proud to be a Brighton fan. Those days make me so bloody happy that I get to sit in a stadium with padded seats and watch our team week in, week out at home. Those are the moments that make this club what it is. As I can't remember, Tom, I think you said just the heart and soul of this football club. And absolutely, Toby, we cannot settle for mediocrity. And if Tony Bloom wants that dream of becoming top 10, getting into Europe, as you say, he is, for me, and I'm sure you guys as well, the best owner in football.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit of bias, but hey.
Yeah, but
of
it's
course
true.
We're going to be.
It's just
exactly. Then he does have to take a few risks financially, to get us where we need to be. And I think that there is such a fine line between where we are. I said this on the last podcast. Such a fine line between where we are and exactly where we want to be, and that is one position. Just leading on from that, Curtis, in the group chat, you brought up a really good point, actually. We've been talking about the striker situation. We've all been saying we need that striker with 15 goals, 20 goals a season. Absolutely. But does our problem lie deeper than that? And because you brought up that point, Curtis, I'll let you take us away with that.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, everyone talks about how we need, prolific goal scorer and everything, which is, obviously we do. But I worry that it might just be, there might be something a little deeper there. Like if we need other positions to be addressed, or if it's just a striker issue. What do we think?
Yeah, totally.
I don't think so. I mean, you look at those 3 Morpay chances. We are creating those chances. Moda had a couple.
Yeah, he did.
We are creating those chances. At the end of the day, if we've not got someone that can bag 2 definite open goals straight up, the one that the Shackleton dived, if he had just scored that, VAR would have given that every day of the week. The other one earlier in the game, everyone was memeing it online. It was a horrible, horrible miss. You cannot miss that. We spent 20 million or whatever it was on him. You cannot miss that. Like, I don't think it is deep-rooted. I think it is as simple as finding someone that can just put the ball in the back of the net. Every time I see one of these Morpay chances, I'm like, what if we had, like, the next Aguero? We would be scoring. He would be scoring 30+ goals a season in our side. Aguero would, and it's so frustrating because we're almost there. We're almost there at being the pinnacle of football. You know what I mean? We are not far off the Champions League spots. I know we're not far off relegation either. But if you think about those extra few points that we could have cooped, we would be there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like we're a good striker off of being like 2 positions higher or 3 positions higher than what we are. I mean, we've spanked. I mean, we haven't got spanked this season yet, which is fantastic. I hope it continues that way. As you said before, like that's a testament to our amazing defense. They're incredible. Yeah. But I just feel I agree with you, Toby. Pretty much what you said. I think the striker situation that needs addressing.
That's why I say that Toby, you said it. There's such a fine line. We're 9 points off of the relegation zone, and we're 6 points, I think, off of a European spot. Tom, what do you agree with Toby, or do you feel like there is a deeper problem?
I think historically there have always been certain positions that we've struggled to recruit in. I mentioned one of your earlier podcasts, I tweeted in about the left back position, because I think left back has always been a position we've lacked in. So seeing Cucurella come in was really fantastic. Mm-hmm. But historically, again, strikers, I know that Potter keeps going on about, it's not just about silver bullet, because we know that clubs have spent big on strikers and they flopped. You look at Wesley at Villa, you look at Joe Linton at Newcastle. So there's no guarantee that spending millions and millions of pounds is going to solve the problem. And I know that perhaps because of our budget, we can't afford to spend big on certain players, but there must be players out there that are within our budget that would add something. One name I've got for you lads, and you might call me crazy, Chris Wood. What are we saying? Chris Wood.
I've seen people talk about this actually. Yeah.
Consistent player across the last season. I'm going to read out his stats because I prepared earlier. So in the last season, he scored 12 goals. Season before, 14. Season before, 10. Season before, 10. So he's regularly hitting double figures. Now, he's not the 15 to 20 goal season striker that's going to maybe fire us into Europe. But his consistent goal return in, with all due respect, a Burnley side that Burnley. Imagine what he could do in our team. You know, creating the chances we did against Leeds. That performance was as close to perfect football as you could hope to get at times. Yeah. It was a joy to watch. You have a proven goal scorer like Chris Wood on the end of that cross that Lamptey put in for Mopé to miss. Chris Wood buries that. Glenn Murray buries that. Even now, Glenn Murray buries that. So I don't necessarily even think it's about spending big. It's about getting that right player in. And I don't think we will get Chris Wood in. I don't, because I think he's too old. And I think, you know,
I don't think Burnley would sell.
No, I don't.
I think if they get rid of Chris Wood, let me put my teeth in, then that relegates them. For me,
I do agree. I think we would get Chris Wood, but I suppose it's sort of like it's that plan B, because I know Welbeck is really good, but he misses more games than he plays.
Yeah.
So it's about having that depth, which we don't have, which is why when Locadia was brought on, I kind of inwardly thought to myself, maybe this is Potter saying, this is what I've got to work with. Because when he came on, he might as well have just stayed on the bench. We might as well have gone down to 10 men. Because
he's essentially a meme pretty much now. Like people are like, oh, Locadia on goals.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, one thing. Sorry, I just want to touch on that Chris Wood point. Southampton got Danny Ings, and look at what it did for them. And then a season later, Aston Villa come and snatch him. There's no reason why we couldn't just go and snatch Chris Wood. I think Burnley would sell personally, and I agree with you. I think in that Burnley side, he's not reaching his full potential. I mean, I think he'd be maybe getting on the little bit of the older side, and I think Graham Potter tends to avoid that sort of age. But yeah, I completely agree with you. I think he could even be a 20-goal striker in this Brighton side. Honestly, the finishes that I've seen him do over the years, you think, how's he going to score from that situation? And he bends it around the keeper, or he smashes it home. I remember a game, it wasn't too long ago. I think we must have lost like 3-1 or something. And they scored 2 really quick early goals, I think. I actually wasn't at that game because I was out to meet Tyson Fury.
Not a real fan.
But but Chris Wood won straight through on goal and just curled it round our keeper as if it was easy. I mean, I don't think Chris Wood is the realistic solution to our problem. I don't think that anyone is a solution until they've provided the goals. But you've got to take a punt. You have to take a punt on someone. The more you stall and you say, oh, there are goals in our strikers. Oh, our strikers know they need to score more. Well, why aren't they bloody doing it then? Like, have you just not been training them?
And I'm tired of hearing about this Darwin Nunez situation as well. Like, it's either going to happen or it isn't. Just do one or the other.
And as we've said with,
it's not going to happen.
As we said with
as well.
With Joelinton and Wesley, big money, right? Like that's going to cost us 35 to 40 million pounds. Far too much of a risk, in my opinion. Obviously, we spoke about Chris Wood. For me, he has the 3 things that we need in a striker, which is clinical, absolutely ruthless on his day, and experienced. You can't bring in I don't know how old Darwin Nunez is, 23, 22.
Yeah, 20s.
Someone who's never played in the Premier League before and just expect him to be bagging goals. I know he scored a few in the Champions League as well. That's different gravy. Izquierdo scored in the Champions League a few times. And Wepu did. I'm sure Trossard did with Genk as well. So there are levels to the Premier League that people forget about, I think.
Yeah.
There's a difference between doing it in a one-off game or one every sort of blue moon game to doing it every week.
Yeah.
Especially when you're going to play teams that aren't going to play nice free-flowing football like some of the Italian sides or Spanish sides. When you're going up against teams like Burnley, and Villa and Palace, it's going to be a lot of you're going to need a lot of strength. You can't always rely on certain players needing a year to settle. You're going to need quick return. That's why I raised Chris Wood, simply because, as you say, Joe, he's experienced, he knows the league, and he can do it on a cold night in Stoke.
Exactly that. I mean, we could sit here and chat about what we need to do, what the board needs to do, what players we need to add forever. But the real fact of the matter is the here and now. We've got West Ham on tomorrow night, and then Southampton away. So Toby, I'm going to start with you. What can Graham Potter do from now until January, when he can possibly bring someone in if the board allows, to try and change our fortunes? Is it just a case of waiting and seeing what happens? Because I really feel like last season is just repeating itself.
No, first thing to do, make an example out of Morpay. If you're a striker and you drop a performance like that, you're dropped. And that's what you need to do this game. Very, very harsh, just straight out. And I'd put Trossard at striker again. He looked really bright against Liverpool. And I would like to explore that more, because I think that he has the minerals. He takes on his man. He can get a shot off from anywhere. He has the minerals to be a striker, and I think he could be a temporary solution to our problem. Obviously, it's a long run in coming over the Christmas games. So I would bring Morpay back after a couple games. Obviously, get the rotation in. But I'm sorry, that was an absolute stinker from Morpay, and I can't imagine Graham Potter being happy with him after that. You can be happy that someone gets in the right positions, but he's proven time and time again that he just doesn't score.
Yeah, he obviously clearly felt that it was the right time to bring him back against Leeds. Obviously, everyone knows that he does like a goal against Leeds. Scored, I think, one last season, and scored a few in his time at Brentford as well against them. Obviously, a beautiful team goal last year at Ellen Road. Didn't quite see a repeat of that, unfortunately. Tom, where do you think we could make a few changes to hopefully change our fortunes against West Ham?
I agree with Toby. I think there's a lot of games in a relatively short space of time, so I do think we'll see quite a bit of squad rotation. West Ham, again, they're historically a team that we tend to do quite well against, but this West Ham under David Moyes, they're doing really well.
Really
props to them for that, because they've really surprised me. They surprised me last season, and they're doing it again this season. So good for them. I wouldn't drop Morpay myself for this game, but I would perhaps like to see a bit more from the young lad Evan Ferguson, who there's a big storm on the game before Leeds, because he didn't make the 23 squad, and everyone was saying, he's going to be on the bench. That didn't happen. I wouldn't mind seeing him thrown in maybe against Southampton, perhaps. But in terms of, I think that we need to go back to what works. I think the formation of playing, the wing backs, and then Trossard either as a sort of just off Morpay drifting wide, or in that sort of position behind two strikers. But with Welbeck out, with Connolly not, I think he's had an injury as well, and he's not in great form himself. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know where the goals are coming from, and that sounds really pessimistic. I just hope that we do pick up a win relatively soon, because we've seen already a bit of toxicity creeping into the fan base, especially on social media, which I know is only a small window to look through. But I think it will just get worse and worse and worse if we don't, as Toby says, take those chances. So
it does give a good reflection of what other fans outside of social media think as well, because as I mentioned, I went on a family holiday. Both my great uncle and one of my cousins is an Albion fan as well. That both of them aren't on social media. They were saying exactly the same things that were being said on social media about the toxicity, the booing. So I really don't feel like it is just social media. It is certainly something that everyone is feeling. Obviously, just still staying on the point of what do we need to change. Curtis, do you think that maybe even we just stick with what we did against Leeds? And because obviously the performance itself was good, we just couldn't find the cutting edge. So do we just continue believing in it?
I mean, we looked fantastic pretty much throughout the game. I didn't think we missed Lallana either, which I was a bit concerned with. And I was like, oh no, we look quite good there. The midfield looked really, really good. And on paper, that team was really good. But the Mopé situation, I think I agree with Toby in the sense maybe not dropping Mopé, maybe benching him, not having him start the game, maybe start Trossard up in that striker's position. I think he could do it. I do think he could do it as well. Like Toby said, he's got a lot of confidence. That's clear. I think he wants to score, and I get that intent from him. So I think that could potentially be a short-term solution for us until January. So
yeah, definitely. We all know his ability. Even bloody Barcelona are in for him.
Bugger off.
If those rumors are true, Trossard, stay with us. We can actually pay your wages. So, obviously some real good points to ponder there, lads. Obviously going into 2 games, I don't know if we'll do a podcast in between West Ham and Southampton. So we'll probably review both games on Sunday if you guys are up for that. I don't know if you're available, Toby, but we'll chat about that obviously off camera. So let's get some predictions then. We'll start with West Ham. Toby, tomorrow night under the lights at the London Stadium, what are we going for?
I do like it when we play West Ham. I do like it. I always get a good feeling. I do get a good feeling this time as well. But I'd only be willing to hedge my bets and say 1-1. I think we will score this time. But I can see them replying like maybe we score and then they reply just straight away, and then that's it, and that's all the action there is in the whole game.
Yeah, goal scorer. I'm going to push you for an Albion goal scorer.
Let's get Lewis Dunk's first of the season.
That would be nice. It is.
Like that.
Yeah. Nice. We're waiting for that one. Would be nice. Tom, what are we thinking?
Damn you, Toby! You stole my idea. Because I was going to go 1-1 with Dunk as well. No, but just to be different, I'm going to go 2-1 Albion, Dunk from a corner, and then a Trossard screamer.
Oh, we all like a Trossard screamer. It's always a Belgian. As Spencer Owen says, he doesn't like us, does he? He always predicts us to go down, but with that we'll save that for another podcast.
Yeah.
Curtis, are you feeling positive?
Surprisingly, yes. It's unbelievable, I know, but I always get quite excited when we're playing bigger teams because we always do a lot better, lot better. And I'm like, oh, okay, West Ham, this could be good. And I always see these jokes like, no, we'll go to West Ham and we'll beat them 3-0. All right. And I'm like, yeah, that would be nice. But I actually think I agree with 2-1. I agree with Tom. And I would actually like to see Duffy score because he's been left out. I haven't seen Duffy play in a little while. I'd like to see Duffy back. And Trossard as well for a screamer, as you put it, Tom.
There you go. I actually tweeted after the game on Saturday. I said it would just be so Brighton.
Yeah, that was you.
Drew 0-0 against Leeds, and then go and absolutely hammer the Hammers.
Please.
I am feeling quietly confident, I have to say. It's live on Amazon Prime if you didn't know that. So if you've got a Prime account, give it a watch on there. Maybe we could even do a little live watch along, but we'll discuss that. Possibly. That's just me throwing that into the mix. But let's go for.
That means we get to be angry on camera. That would be great.
Absolutely. Let's
Every
go
time
for.
we miss a chance, Toby just throws something.
Right, Albion 2, West Ham 0, and I'm gonna
Ooh.
go for. I'm just going to see. I'm only saying this because I want to see Toby's reaction. I'm going for a 0 Morpay brace.
I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it. I mean, I said on Twitter after a few exchanges with some people, I said I fully support and back Morpay to do better. By the way, sometimes a period out of team can make him come back firing. He's done that before. I have no doubt he'll do it again. I don't think this is the last goal he's ever scored for Brighton.
No.
I think that he obviously will do well again, but you really have to question when a performance like that comes in whether he's the right man for the job. Joe, before we left it, there was one more point that I really wanted to talk about, which I spoke to these guys before the pod. Graham Potter's comments, I felt they were really belittling to the Brighton fans that deserve a say. They deserve a say in their own football club. This club is made by its fans. Okay. Remember, Tony Bloom is also a fan. He really needs to stop belittling. I will still support him and I still back him as the manager, and I still believe that what he's doing on the pitch is successful. But this is now the second or third time that he's given a bit of a jab to the guts of the Albion fans that are disagreeing with something that's happening on the pitch. I think he would do. He says that Brighton would do well to read the history books. He would do well to read the history books, because I'm really not happy with his attitude towards us.
Yeah, I think he's a man that really, really believes in what he does as a football manager. I don't think it really matters to him what badge is on his chest when he goes out there training. He just wants his philosophy to come across. I do think that maybe that we are a stepping stone to something bigger for him. There's lots of links with him and lots of talk about him maybe becoming the next England manager. So I absolutely agree. Managers have to tread carefully. One manager that for me was always spoke well and I could listen to him all day was Chris Hughton. He was always truthful. He was always humble. He always knew exactly the situation that he was in. And he still speaks very, very highly of Brighton, even though maybe the way it ended between us and him was a little bit abrupt, maybe. But yeah, I completely agree, Toby, that he does have to be careful, because before long, if this reign of form continues, Albion fans will be pushing him out the door, because if he doesn't believe in the club and get invested in the club, then essentially you really wouldn't want him at the helm. But at the moment, 100%, I am behind him and back him to do well with us. Guys, what do you think of that, Tom? First of all,
I mean, at the time, I wasn't particularly annoyed at that comment. I remember I was saying before we started recording, there was a comment he made last season when we hadn't won at home for a year. And he did make some comment then about fans' expectations. And that I thought was, quite on the nose. And I was a bit like, for goodness sakes, Graham, we haven't won at home for a year. But this time I sort of think he's probably just as frustrated, if not more so than we are. And he's got a choice. He can either go in front of the cameras and turn around and say, yeah, my team were crap. Or he can... that's what Mourinho used to do. Oh, my team are rubbish. Whereas he's not that kind of manager, and he's gonna stick up for his players. I know that some fans found it not necessarily insulting, but sort of a bit causing friction that perhaps doesn't need to be caused. But I think he's probably cooled off now, and in the press conferences he's given since, he seems a lot more. And I think, what he says about like Sarmiento, it's his first game. And at the end of his first game at the AMEX, he's had to hear boos. So I can see both sides. I really can. So yeah, I mean, just as you say, Joe, you know, if things keep going the way they do and fans get more on his back and more on the players' back, he just needs to make sure that, as you know, using his own words, he needs to communicate with fans as best he can, and making sarcastic comments or whatever isn't the way to do that.
I just think he needs to be careful though, because yes, we're 9th in the table now. Yes, you can point at our history and say, look at where we've come from, but Graham wasn't there for that part. So we're judging on his part of the club. I guarantee you now, like Chris Hughton, I sort of felt a connection to. I sort of feel like, oh yeah, he's the gaffer. You know, Chris Hughton in my mind, like, yeah, if I were to make like a Brighton all-time 11, I think Chris Hughton would be my manager for that 11. No matter the job that Potter does now, for me, he's sort of tarnished his name the way he keeps biting back in these interviews. And I get it, he's a human and he's got to have what he says, but he needs to be careful about what he says, because it won't guarantee him job security if Brighton fans dislike him more because of the things he says in interviews in the past. Because right now he's doing fine on the pitch and that's what he's paid to do. But in the future, could lose out on the rest of a Brighton career if it all starts going south. Could lose out on an England career if he starts saying stuff about England fans in the future. And I guarantee you, if he goes to a big club, United, Chelsea, something like that, if he talks about the fans like that, they'll want him out because they can just go and get another big manager. To them, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I'm not saying
massive compared to ours.
Yeah.
Just again, read the history. It's like we've already said, what happened 10, 15, 20 years ago in the 90s, in the 80s, whatever, has no bearing on the game we played on Saturday. Not really. Yeah, it's where we've come from, but just because we played crap at Warsaw one time or we lost to a non-league team doesn't mean that those misses aren't awful and fans are frustrated by our current form.
Yeah. Also, just touching on your point, if Graham Potter was to go to a bigger club, I'm not saying he does have an ego, but I do feel like maybe those clubs are used to a manager with an ego, like Mourinho, Guardiola, Klopp. As good managers as they are, that absolutely do have an ego, 100%. And as you say, guys, he does have to be careful. I also think that maybe he's playing a role where he's protecting his players as well. The guys that he works with day in, day out, he doesn't like to see them, be unappreciated. Like Sarmiento, obviously, an amazing youth prospect. I thought he looked really, really good. The last time he came on, I think in the League Cup, and against Leeds. So yeah, I do think he is playing maybe like a favourite uncle role.
And there were so many players in that team that played so incredibly well. We need to just lay that out there. Like everyone, you know, Cucurella, Lamptey looks fantastic as he always does. But like my opinion of this whole comment thing is, I don't really have an opinion on it. I didn't feel anything about it. I didn't feel offended by it. I thought he was entitled to a point to say what he said, because we only see 90 minutes of football. We don't see how hard they are training every single week to put on to try and win these games. And when that doesn't happen, you can imagine how frustrating that is for the players and the manager. So I think also he's just pretty frustrated himself, but he can't outright say, well, they're not giving me money for a striker. He can't just say that. So
maybe that's why he bought Locadia on.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I did think that too. I think, well, maybe this is our only other option. So this is what you get. So
I must admit, I would love to see what Locadia does in training to warrant a place on the bench in the Premier League. A guy that couldn't even score a hatful in the MLS on the bench in the Premier League.
It's the very fact that we don't have another striker. We don't have another option. He doesn't feel it's time to bring Evan Ferguson through.
I play Jason Steele up front before I play Locadia again.
Listen, Connolly is a little bit of a, we know that he's got some issues and stuff, but why isn't he been benched at least? I know that he's, as I said, he's got his problems and injuries and stuff, but he's a striker and he has scored for us now and again. So
Do you guys reckon that we might see any loanees return in January? I know we're kind of just waffling now, but like, because that's another thing. Like loanees, could we see like Matoma come in from Belgium if he's got his work permit sorted, or Seema come back from Stoke? Because I don't think he's really played at Stoke. Kadra's doing really well.
He was injured. Seema was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and sorry, the reason I was face palming because when Curtis was mentioning Connolly, I was like, "Is that really who we have to turn to?"
Exactly. That's my point, though. Like, if that's the only other option we have, so why not just use him? So
I threw this out. Sorry, Tom. Go on.
Almost like we need a new striker.
Weird.
Yeah. I threw this out on Twitter. And you're going to think I'm mental because of how good he is in the position that he plays. But Lewis Dunk at striker.
Adam Virgo, make it happen.
Lewis Dunk at striker.
I think Shane Duffy would be more suited to it than Dunk. I think Duffy used to play there as well.
Did he? Oh, I didn't know that.
Big Shane up there. Big man, little man.
In fact, he scored a cracker of a goal. He scored a cracker of a goal for Blackburn before he joined us. Honestly, get on YouTube after this and have a look at Duffy goal for Blackburn. I can't remember who it was against, but it was similar to Ben White's goal for Leeds towards the end of the season. He was on loan.
Oh, did he play for Leeds? Did he? I wasn't aware of.
I think so.
Well, didn't they make him?
He came on loan to us, and then he went back to his parent club, and then got signed for Arsenal.
But Joe, Leeds made him though. Joe.
Yeah. Oh, they did.
They sculpted him out of some things they found just lying around.
Yeah.
They made him.
Yeah, we forget about his loan to Peterborough and Newport. We'll completely forget about that.
Give them all a percentage of his transfer fee. Yeah. They all shaped him.
Good for a laugh, aren't they?
Give his parents a bonus.
How has this gone from talking about Aaron Connolly to Leeds owning Ben White?
I don't know. Let's blame Toby for it. I don't know.
Okay, yeah. No, Curtis, I blame your cat.
Okay, why not? Yeah, why not?
It's always the cat. Right. Anyway, guys, we are well and truly waffling now. So what we'll do is we'll put out our Southampton predictions on Twitter after the West Ham game, because anything can happen in the meantime. So yeah, this has been a really insightful and quite simply good episode, I think, in my opinion. So yeah. Give it a share, guys, if you've made it this far into the video. If you have, congratulations.
An hour of us chatting.
Yeah. In fact, if you have got this far, tweet #blame Curtis's cat.
And if you have, wake up, we're finished now.
Wake up now.
You can get on with your day now. Anyway, right.
You need to title it podcast and then in brackets, gone wrong, things get heated, boo.
Boo. Right, guys,
just
re-record
it and just have a boo for an hour.
Yeah, in 3, 2, 1, right? I want us all to boo for 5 seconds, and I will count it down. Right, 3, 2, 1, boo.
Down to this sort of thing, boo.
Love it, guys. Well done. And roll the intro. See you later, guys.
Peace.
Intro, outro. We're not doing that again. Bye-bye.
Professional.